This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
Miami! To mission control, we have liftoff. Phinhub! Phinhub! We talking Dolphin City! Phinhub, Phinhub! Yeah! It's that Dolphin Show! Phinhub!
Welcome to the Phinhub Show, the one NFL podcast you can't leave off your roster. Now here's your hosts, Joe and Kevin DeHaven.
All right. Welcome to another episode of the Phinhub Show, powered by BetUS. Guys, before we get into the rest of the video and our roster predictions for the 2024 season, here's a word from BetUS.
Michael Vick here at BetUS.com. Get it all. Huge bonuses, great odds, a race book, live in-game betting, and a casino. BetUS, my online sports book and casino.
All right, guys, so make sure to check out BetUS for all of your betting needs. We have a big season for the Miami Dolphins, a lot of money to be made. So, yeah, let's start off with one easy one right here. You see the Dolphins are under 9.5 wins for the season. You already know we're going over. That should be an easy win right there. So join us in the next episode to see how we're going to go about betting for this. It should be a fun one, and we hope to see you guys there. All right, so after that big game from Skylar Thompson, the Dolphins made a decision and let go of Mike White. I think everybody saw that one coming after that Tampa Bay game, but it also releases an extra, $3.5 million?
Yeah.
Back into the cap for the Miami Dolphins. They also released Jody Fortson, and we were really excited to have him for the roster this season, but he really didn't show much. And with Julian Hill stepping up in training camp and providing what he can as far as a blocking tight end, and the Dolphins' future plans for him, having him watch tape on George Kittle, it seems like we're pretty locked in with our three. All right, so let's just get into the 53-man roster prediction. Right. Let's start, obviously, at quarterback. We know what it's going to be. Tua, Skylar Thompson, Mike White gets the boot. Not much else to say there. We know what Tua's going to be. Skylar's our number 2. And I'm excited for Tua this season.
So, yeah, wasn't a surprise at all, Mike White being cut. Skylar Thompson obviously had that great game. You can see just he had a way more control of this offense. He just looked a lot more alive out there. Mike White just looked like he didn't know what to do with the ball at times, was passing the ball way too late. Almost got Malik Washington destroyed, which, I mean, that's one tough kid, man. To take that hit and to be able to come back into the game and have the type of game he had, very impressive with Malik Washington. But what are your comments? What do you think about the whole releasing Mike White?
Yeah, from what I saw from Mike White, he was letting go of the ball way too late on some plays, and it could put players in trouble, puts the ball in trouble's way.
Yeah.
And Skylar Thompson really did look like he had more control of the offense. He had better decision-making. His timing was better. I feel like he was rolling out of the pocket a little bit better, too, than Mike White.
You're right.
So, overall, he just looked like more at ease at the position, and he had a control of the offense. So, I think the Dolphins made a great move by releasing Mike White, especially considering that it helps us out with our cap a little bit more, an extra $3.5 million. That was the obvious choice, and I'm glad the Dolphins, made that move.
Definitely a no-brainer. I think Skylar Thompson actually provides something different than Mike White. A little bit more athleticism, can roll out of the pocket, can throw on the move too. So I'm happy they made that decision. I'm happy we have the cap savings, and I hope this trickles down with a couple other players that, we can take those savings and potentially maybe pour it into a guard or someone that's going to end up potentially being like a surprise cut from another team, and we can replenish this line and kind of make it a lot more stable, because right now it's definitely a concern.
Right.
Let's get into the receivers. So we have Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, OBJ, Malik, Azukama, and Berrios.
Okay.
I would like to leave Berrios off the roster and, roll out with those 5 And maybe that's something that the Dolphins might consider because you do have River Craycraft. I understand that he's going to be on
the IR.
On the IR, but I think he will be back maybe by week 4. Maybe he can come back week 5. And then, you won't really have the need of Berrios being on the roster. Maybe that can come in another, position. Maybe we can add an extra linebacker, an extra defensive lineman, or offensive lineman. Exactly.
Yeah.
There's just not too many that I want to roster on this team. You know what I'm saying? So if we can, like I said, find a lineman, offensive lineman, through someone else's, loaded guard group that they need to get rid of this guy that can be a starter on another team, I would love that. So those are the wide receivers. And then, any comments with that?
Well, obvious choices at the top 3, from Tyreek Hill to OBJ. But then really the interesting part is, with the latter. You have Ezukanma, who I think will be, if he's healthy, he could be our 4 very easily. But Malik really showed a lot of promise in that last game against the Buccaneers. He showed a lot of toughness.
Yeah.
He was just great with the ball in his hands. So I was really, really impressed with him. And I think that he's going to be a great receiver in this league.
Speaking of Malik, this is what Mike McDaniel had to say after the game about Malik Washington.
Oh, aggressiveness. He played as though the game was slow to him. It slowed down and was able to get in some space. And I think we hadn't gotten the chance to see his something that we saw in college from him that he put on display tonight, which is his balance and his ability to break tackles and get edges of defenders. So it was cool for him. It was a definitely big spark for us, and was happy to see him really own the moment. And he's a football player, and I could tell pregame he was ready to go by him saying it's time. So
yeah, you can see he was excited about what he was able to put on the field. Finally kind of showed up in one of these games and was able to see why we took this kid and believe in him, essentially. So I'm happy that he can actually get some playing time. It seems like that's a possibility now. So it'd be really nice to see a young guy maybe get some reps in live action, real games. So I think it's a great group right there.
Is that your order too for, starting, I guess, at wide receiver 4 with Malik?
Not necessarily, but I do really like what we saw from him this last preseason game against the Buccaneers. Man, the guy's tough. He really showed you exactly why we drafted him and why this team believes in him. I know he wasn't showing it much in practices and previous preseason games, but I'm gonna go ahead and say, okay, yeah, he'll be my number 4. Just because Ezukanma hasn't really been able to do much, even though against the Commanders, he did have a really good preseason game. Mm-hmm. But, seeing him on the sideline in a boot, that doesn't make me happy. So
actually, but Omar Kelly pointed out something kind of interesting. While the game was on, Ezukanma was in a boot in that Tampa Bay game. Mm-hmm. But as soon as the game finished and Ezukanma was out, everybody was leaving, Ezukanma didn't have a boot on anymore.
It's interesting. So maybe it's all a show.
It could be a show, maybe a little diversion. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, and I feel like
Ezukanma can be the reason why I would place him at number 4 is because it is now 3 years of being in the same system, and he also brings, like we've talked about so many times, he brings that different element into that receiving room. Yeah. So I don't know, 4 or 5, does it even matter at this point? I agree completely with that list. I think if River Craycraft would have been healthy to start the season, if he wouldn't be on the IR,
there wouldn't be a Berrios on this roster.
Possibly, but also aside from that, I feel like he would be that number 4 for the team, and I think he'd actually be competing with OBJ at this point because because from everything that we've heard from practice, he's been a killer. And, in preseason, Tua had like a nice connection with him going into the end zone. That was nice. Yeah. So, look, I don't know. That's neither here or there because he's not healthy to start the season. But
we also have to give it time to see OBJ on the field with Tua because you can't deny his talent. Obviously, they haven't been able to build that connection yet because due to a lack of reps, obviously OBJ is injured. But I do think, going back to the Ezukama thing and him being in the boot, I feel like we have been very, I guess, deceptive, right? Would that be the word?
I hope that the Dolphins have been deceptive.
I feel like we have been because all this stuff with OBJ is just really interesting. And I think, I really do think he's going to be available for week 1. And I think now that, people don't have access to these practices and they can't see even the reporters, now we can probably take him off that pup, start adding those wrinkles. No one knows how OBJ looks in this offense. They don't see the connection with Tua. So if we can establish one from now to the start of the season, I think we might have another element to this offense that no one's going to be able to see exactly how we're going to look. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and receiver's also a really interesting position because much like basketball, a lot of things are becoming almost positionless. Not a lot of things, but I guess the running back room and the wide receiver room, tight ends, they're
a lot more versatile.
Yeah. And that's what the Dolphins are looking at right now with HN taking in some reps at receiver. Jonnu Smith.
Eric Ezukanma
taking in some reps at running back. So like these are some weird things going on with those units.
More so weapons, right, that we have on this team. So it's cool.
I'm really, really excited to see how all of this looks. Hopefully the Dolphins have been deceptive this summer. And OBJ is actually a lot healthier than what they claim.
Yeah. Right, because look, we got a guy, and I don't want to ramble about the wide receivers. This one's going to be quick, but we got a guy in OBJ that's a veteran, that is a star, right, in the past. I mean, he's not a star anymore, but maybe it's just a string of bad luck with the injuries, right? Maybe he still has that level of talent left in the tank. You'd like to think that he can just come right onto the scene and be who he is, OBJ, right? So maybe the Dolphins have that in their mind, and they're like, we don't have to risk any injury with practices. That's
probably what it is.
With preseason games too, right?
So there's no pressure. They knew what they were signing. They knew at the time that they were signing him what injury he had and how severe it was and how long it would take. So I'm sure they're not rushing him along. He'll hopefully be okay for week 1.
And remember,
but
this is something about his contract. It's not like he doesn't want to play. His contract is all incentive based. He needs to be out there playing to reach those incentives to essentially make that $8 million that he can reach in incentives, right? So he wants to be out there more than anyone. So anyone questioning whether he wants to be out there, like they were comparing it to Will Fuller, that situation. Wow. It's not the same situation. Will Fuller, I think Will Fuller had, what was it, a neck injury or something?
No, I think it was his hand.
Or his finger. Yeah. I don't know what it was, but clearly he didn't want to play because after that season, he just never stepped foot on the field again. Yeah. So let's move on to the tight end room. I'm only rostering 3, so I have Smythe, Jonnu Smith, and Julian Hill. I don't see anyone else. I don't really believe in Tanner Conner. I don't think he has much to do with anything. I would rather, have a guy like Hayden Rucci, put him on the practice squad, develop him. If you have to call him up, you can. You can do that 3 times a year. And yeah, do you have any comments? Would you want to see a 4th potentially added? Or
no, I think 3 is fine. I think 3 is okay, is a good number. You have Jonnu Smith, who I think is going to be lightning for this team. I think it's one of the biggest pickups for the Miami Dolphins this offseason.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be this new wrinkle to that offense. So super excited to see how that looks. Durham Smythe has been solid for us. There's not much to say on him. We know who he is. And then Julian Hill, he's a guy that we're developing, and we went into that a little bit last episode, but he really wants to be here, and he's working hard at his craft. And just listening to him talk, like, he made a believer out of me, and his physicality, I love to see that on the field. I really like who Julian Hill is, and I really like him as a player, and I believe in his potential. So I'm really excited to see how they bring him along, and could he possibly be the tight end of the future for the Miami Dolphins? That's yet to be seen, obviously, but.
No, I agree. I think he he's showing some promise. I think they definitely see something in him. So, yeah, it was really exciting seeing, that little pass from Tua against the Commanders, I believe, right?
Yeah.
That's when Tua came out, and he had the little sidewinder, that little side throw, and Julian Hill was able to grab it and go out and truck the guy. So you could see the physicality there. If he can develop into a good receiver at tight end, man, the sky's the limit. We already know he can block. They're raving about that throughout the whole offseason. So I think it's cool. I would like to see us draft a tight end eventually, maybe someone that we can develop, but he seems like a really solid piece to this tight end room. So let's move on to running back. I have, and this one was a bit hard for me because I do, and I'll get into it after I tell you, but so I have Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, Jalen Wright, and Brooks. And then I'll just throw in Ingold. I know he's a fullback, but whatever. We'll just put Ingold in there too. So essentially rostering 5. It's hard because I feel like Jeff Wilson's going to make this team just off of the fact that he is guaranteed his money. And Brooks is a guy that you can possibly stash on your practice squad again. I don't think anyone's going to go out and pick him up. So maybe that might be the Dolphins' logic there. I just don't think Jeff Wilson deserves to make this team over a guy like Brooks because, I mean, you see it. It's night and day. One's way more talented than the other. And you saw it in the game right before he got injured. It was against the Commanders as well. He ripped like a 50-something yard run. That's something that, I heard Reason from Finside was saying that Jeff Wilson hasn't even had a 40-yard run or something like that. So just in that one game, he has done it in an actual regular season game too. So that's my room. I don't know if you have any comments on that or.
Yeah, we just have the issue with Jeff Wilson's contract being guaranteed, but if there's a trade to be made for Jeff Wilson,
that would be interesting.
I think that's something to consider. I feel like that's probably the route to go, because I don't think you release him. Obviously, it doesn't make sense, like financially. But Chris Brooks, the only thing that I have to say about him is every time he's on the field, it seems like he's getting hurt.
Yeah.
So love his game, but I don't know if he can stay on the field. So
well, we can say the same for Jeff Wilson.
You can say the same for Jeff Wilson too. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm okay with I'm okay with it either way.
We're okay with it,
just because I really love
the top 3. And also, I really do want to see Jalen Wright get some reps, man. Like I think it was so crucial to Devon Achane's development last year to be able to get those early reps, right? And just basically burst onto the scene. Granted, he did get, hurt. He had some injuries, a string of bad luck, I believe. But if we can see that, because Devon Achane and Jalen Wright are the running backs of the future, and I think they're going to be around for a while. So let's just move on to the offensive line. So obviously, Teron Armstead, Patrick Paul, Robert Jones, Lester Cotton, Aaron Brewer, Liam Eichenberg, Jack Driscoll, Austin Jackson, and Kendall Lamb. There's not much to say about this room. The only thing I will say is that I do want to see the Dolphins make another move. I mean, preseason is finally coming to a close, I believe, today. It's Sunday. So I don't know if there's any games on Monday. I think it's done after this. We might. So, and, we're going to have these cut downs by Tuesday. So maybe we're going to get a veteran guard or something that's going to essentially not make a team because they're stacked with young talent or whatever. Or maybe a young guy that has tremendous talent but just couldn't beat out the next guy. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I would really like to see us make a move, pick someone up, a surprise thing. So this room for me is a huge question mark because it can look completely different. Maybe we have 2 guys that I have here that just won't even make the team because we're signing some other guys off the street, Right. And I would really like to see that. What do you have to say about that?
It's a mirror, exactly what you said.
Yeah.
There's this unit is pretty bad. The only real decent name that we have at this point is Teron, and Austin Jackson is actually probably our most consistent starter at this point, just because of Teron Armstead's health. And I think, with the injury to Aaron Brewer, I don't know if it's serious or not, but it doesn't seem like it is from the reports that we're getting. Isaiah Wynn looks like he's lost, like he's, nowhere to be found. And then On Teron Armstead's side, we know that you probably cannot count on him for an entire season, so that leaves you with a rookie left tackle in Patrick Paul. So Patrick Paul not having a solid left guard and a healthy center is going to put a lot of pressure on a rookie. It's not something you really should feel comfortable going into the season with. And I know that a lot of our, people have told us, in the past, like, oh, because of Tua's game, he can mask a lot of the weaknesses from the offensive line. And I do agree. He gets rid of the ball very quickly, and he makes quick decisions. It helps to mask that bad offensive line play. But he can't do that for every play. Every now and then, you're going to have to extend the play a little bit longer. You're going to have to let the play develop a little bit longer than usual. And on those plays, we can't have Liam Eichenberg on skates.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
Always on the ground, right?
Yeah, so I think that the Dolphins really do need to stress this out a little bit. Just because, why not? The entire roster is built out. The time is now. Make a move at offensive line. Put our worries to rest. It's something that you will see across the entire Miami Dolphins fan base. The one thing that we are mind boggled over is the offensive line. We're making moves everywhere else.
You need that to protect your $200 million man in Tua. I mean, you just made a massive investment in this quarterback. So for you not to have the confidence up front, the guys essentially protecting your quarterback from injury, I think it's a massive letdown to the fan base too, because, man, you have everything on this roster that you need except for those two positions, right? You're talking about the left guard and the right guard right now. Teron Armstead, fantastic left tackle, but, there's that question about injury. Aaron Brewer's the new center of the future for us. He looked pretty solid in Tennessee, but, already starting off the year with an injury. And then you got our right tackle in Austin Jackson that
has actually come up, and he's the guy that we wanted to draft. Oh, not wanted to draft, but the guy that we envisioned when drafting him.
Exactly.
Maybe he's not, a stud of studs, but he is
perfect for
solid.
this offense, right?
He does the job.
He's perfect for the offense. He's an athletic tackle that can run out there and, be there on that second level, helping the running backs, get extra yards, right? So all we're missing is that left guard and right guard. I'm really hoping that we can get one of these, like I said, a veteran that doesn't make the team, maybe trade for one, and improve that position. So let's see what the Dolphins do there. Special teams, this one's easy. Sanders, Jake Bailey, Blake Ferguson. I would really like to see us upgrade that punter position, but I don't think it's going to happen. Obviously, he's a lock to make the roster. I don't know what they see in him. I guess he's a great placeholder, but
and I guess that's really the value here. The game, the way that it's going, it's bro, just score as much as you can. It's not necessarily it's not the game that it used to be. The Dolphins are looking to score. And I think with this offense too, if you think about the way that the game flows, the Dolphins with their offense, I think they feel so confident in moving the ball that the punter doesn't need to be this amazing guy that's always I guess they prefer the placeholder guy that helps Sanders score the ball easier over punting the ball into better field position, because they feel like the offense can move the ball so easily that the punter's always going to be able to get it into decent field position because of where our offense leaves the ball.
Yeah.
So maybe that's their, thinking going into it. I think they're just thinking, bro, we're going to score. We're going to score. We're going to score. We're going to score. We're looking for at least 3 every single drive. So that's my thought on that. Because, when it comes to him actually being a punter, I don't really see it.
He's not an NFL punter.
He had one good boot the other day against Tampa Bay, and it was like, what? Where did that come from? Yeah. But aside from that, I don't know.
Just an inconsistent guy. It seems like he has the leg for it, but for whatever reason, it
doesn't show.
It can't. So whatever. I mean, I understand your reasoning there. I don't think we're going to be a team that punts very often. I mean, that's obviously wishful thinking, but we saw it last year, and our offense is only better. And looking at this line, though, sorry, we already did the line, but I just did want to comment on the line. One more thing. Connor Williams, I think that would have been a great signing if we could have brought him back. He probably could have even played center for us. But if he could have been the left guard for us, man, that would have been tremendous. I would have paid $8 million for him.
I guess it's just not what he wanted.
Exactly. But let's go to defensive line. So we have Chop Robinson. That's obviously he's gonna make the team. Rookie Mo Kamara, Emmanuel Ogba, Jalen Phillips, Zach Sealer, Calais Campbell, Jones, Peely, Mack, and Gallimore. This one was a bit hard too because you also have guys like Quentin Bell. But I just, we would hear about him in the offseason, the whole offseason. Oh, this guy's tremendous. He's made such a jump. He looks great. He looks like one of the best players out there. But when it came time to be on the field, you just didn't see it. I didn't see it in any of these preseason games. You can practice well all you want, but if you can't produce on the field, I don't see why you would be able to make this team, And I think, maybe you go in with the thought process of a guy like Bradley Chubb being back after week 4, so you wouldn't need this guy to be rostered. So I like to think maybe you add extra depth on the line. You know what I'm saying? Like one of the
Interior
tackles
lineman. On the offensive line?
Yeah, one of the defensive tackles or something. So whatever. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I didn't see much from. We heard a lot about Quentin Bell being a wrecker in practice, but it just didn't translate to game time.
Yeah.
So that was interesting and a little disappointing. I don't know if the Dolphins decide to keep him because he was getting a lot of positive traction from practice, but yeah, it didn't really translate to the field. So I wouldn't roster him as of right now, but I can also see a world where the Dolphins do. So
I see him as a guy that can make our practice squad, though.
Yeah.
I really do. I don't think anyone's going to go and try to claim this guy, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So.
But, yeah, I would leave it at that. I agree with the interior. The Dolphins might still make a move on there.
The only guy I see that maybe can be like, hey, what about me is Deshaun Hand. I think he can probably make the team as well. But, yeah, I loved what I saw from Peely. I like this guy, Mack. I think he's Isaiah Mack, right? I think he's tremendous. Neville Gallimore kind of showed you that he can play on the edge as well. So I think maybe that can be part of their thought process too, with not, keeping a guy like Quentin Bell. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I don't think we have to touch on that much longer. The linebacker room. So I have David Long, Jordan Brooks, Anthony Walker, and Channing Tindall. I'm leaving off our guy Duke Riley. He's a better rapper than he is an actual football player. The only thing he does provide is good special teams play. So, I can see the Dolphins maybe thinking that, we need to keep this guy just because special teams seems like it's going to be a very important aspect of the game now because you do see the way it changed, and I think there's more opportunity to actually get touchdowns on these kick returns. But yeah, do you have? And I want to comment on this. I don't know if I'm going to keep him on the roster, but I do have Bolton also making this team.
Okay.
And it's just, I do think he can make the practice squad if we don't keep him, but he just seemed like he might have been the best player out there in all these games. You always see him around the ball tackling, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's something that he might not be the most athletic guy, but he just has the instincts that you would want in a linebacker. So
Yeah.
I think it might be beneficial to have him on this team.
So this unit, I'm actually really, it's one of the units that I'm most excited to see this season, just because it's been a complete makeover.
You're right.
But,
You're right about that.
David Long, love his game. Jordan Brooks. I really am excited to see what he brings to the Dolphins. Anthony Walker Jr., we haven't seen him yet. And then Channing Tindall had a hell of a game against Tampa Bay. He was tackling like crazy, which it's a great sign because we didn't get to see a lot of that. We didn't get to see that at all last season with Vic Fangio. So Anthony Weaver's doing something right by Channing Tindall. He's developing his game, and I'm hoping that wasn't just a one kind of game deal with him. I hope that becomes a trend for him.
Yeah.
Because I was excited about him when the Dolphins drafted him, and we haven't really.
Me too, man.
He's been a bit of a letdown since he's been down here, but yeah, maybe Anthony Weaver is helping him along and actually turning him into the linebacker we hoped he would become.
Yeah, and it's crazy, right? You see, this is why turnover on defense, like coaching staffs and defensive coordinators, is so important. It's for these young guys, A guy like Channing Tindall, this is his third, coaching staff scheme. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of hard to gain some traction when you're a young guy just coming into the league trying to understand exactly what the game is about. You know what I'm saying? So if you're constantly changing
your philosophy, your
philosophy,
ideals.
your game plan, your playbook, like it's really hard.
Yeah.
So the talent's there, the explosive. The guy is fast. You see him blitzing, like he gets to the quarterback so quick. I think there is something to his game that Anthony Weaver sees, and I think he's going to want him on this roster, and he might develop him into a pretty decent, linebacker. So I'm excited for that.
Okay.
All right, so let's go to the defensive back room. I have Jordan Poyer, Campbell, Holland, May, Ramsey, Fuller, Kohu, Smith, Bonner, and Saren Neal. So talking about Bolton in the linebacker room, it's between him and Storm Duck to make this roster for me. And this is going to lead into my question. Who would you rather have on this team, a guy like Bolton or a guy like Storm Duck?
So I'm going to take Storm Duck.
Okay. So
over
then let's
Bolton.
take Bolton out of the linebacker room, right?
Yeah, the only reason why I'm taking Storm Duck over Bolton is because I do like our linebackers a lot. I love our corners too, but a few corners go down, and that depth is going to be needed.
Do you think a guy like
actually
Storm
the same
Duck
could be said for the linebackers? But
that's the thing, if we take him out of this room, we only have 4. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's a bit hard.
it's going to be tough for me. But I think I'm going to stick with Storm Duck. I really like his name.
Yeah. So I did leave off a guy like Nick Needham. I don't know if that's how does that feel? I mean, I just feel like he's kind of another guy that's been around for a long time, hasn't lived up to what we thought he would be.
But Nick Needham has been better than some of the other guys that we've mentioned. Like he's done more than a Duke Riley has done.
No, of course,
but I'm gonna say I'm agreeing with you on that.
You want some change, right?
I would rather stay away from Nick Needham. At this point, some of these younger guys look like they're really coming in with some intensity. I would like to see what Storm Duck could do for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree there. I think Nick Needham, it's not that it's essentially run its course. I just do see the value in providing a roster spot to a young guy that you can develop, give him these reps, right? During the season, he can see exactly what these other guys are doing on the sideline. And Nick Needham's already up there in age, had his injury history, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's been a lot of things. Was a Flores guy.
Yeah.
I just think it's time for a change there, too. So I would like to see Storm Duck make this team. He was just all over this offseason. He was just making plays. Was actually a guy that was very talented, so for us to be able to get him as a UDFA, I think it was tremendous. And then I do think on the practice squad, we can have some really nice guys at cornerback as well, and the other young guys that we have as UDFAs on this team. So
no, I am excited about this cornerback room too.
Yeah.
Honestly, the Dolphins have done a great job with depth this season.
Yeah.
Something that we lacked a lot last season.
And which I agree, because it was kind of hard making this roster, man. There's a lot, and it's not to say that all these guys are complete studs, but it's just
you can't have a complete NFL roster full of studs. Like, it's just impossible.
It's impossible. But on top of that, it was hard. So it's just showing the tremendous work. Like, it was good work that they did this offseason. They were able to bring in some really talented guys, and I think we're turning over a new leaf.
Yeah.
So
is that it for the 53?
Yeah, that's it.
Wow.
That's all of them.
Okay. Yeah, overall, love the team. I have the Dolphins going well over 9.5 wins. Well, not well over, but I'm definitely taking the over.
Well over, yeah. I have
Yeah.
at least 2 games over that. So
So if you guys haven't already placed your bets or even bet on BetUS, make sure to check out BetUS. There's a ton of ways that you can bet on games. We're going to be doing at least one video a week where we show our bets for the week.
not only bet on games, you can bet on players as well.
Yeah, you can also bet on the season as well.
Yeah.
So one of the easy ones, I'm just gonna say it: 9.5 wins, over 9.5 wins. Like, come on, that's easy
Yeah.
money right there.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with over 9.5. Guys, make sure to check them out. The link is down below. It's the pinned comment there. We also have a link in our description. But that's gonna be it for today. We will see you guys in the next one. Fins up.